Okay, so we are going to start on indicator 6 today. And then, like I said, on Friday, this is going to be a really short indicator. So we will have notes today. You'll have an assignment due tomorrow. Tomorrow we will review. And Wednesday we will have an open note quiz. So it's really important that today, while you're watching this video, that you've got your 3-ring binder out and that you are taking notes and writing down the steps and writing down examples so that Wednesday when you take the quiz, you've got your notes, okay? All right, so the nice thing about indicator 6 is really it's a review from indicator 5. So we learned in indicator 5 how to write equations. And the nice thing about indicator 6 is that we are going to focus solely on writing equations in slope-intercept form. Okay, so in your notes, indicator 6, writing equations from a given table, and you'll notice here we're writing them in slope-intercept form, okay, which is y equals mx plus b. So we'll be able to focus ending all of our equations in y equals mx plus b. Now that doesn't mean we're not going to use finding slope and we're not going to use point slope form, but we are always going to be ending in y equals mx plus b, so it kind of makes it easier to not forget where you're going to be ending. So I want to really quickly, I want to scroll down and I want to write some steps out, and then we'll come back and we'll actually work this problem using the steps. So steps to writing equations. Given a table. Okay, those are the steps. These are 4. Step 1 is going to be pick any 2 points, right, from the table or from the set of points and find slope. Okay, and as a review, that is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Step 2, okay, is that you're going to pick any 1 point and you're going to write point slope form. I'm going to abbreviate. Okay, pick any 1 point and you're going to write it out in point slope form. Now remember, you found your m in the first step, and so now you're going to take and you're going to pick any 1 point, okay, and then you are going to write y minus your y1 of the point you picked equals your m that you found, x minus your x1. Okay, and the x1 and y1 are just simply one of the points you picked from your table, and your m is the slope you found from picking any 2 points of the table. And then step 3 is distributing getting y by itself and ending in y equals mx plus b. Okay, that's what it takes to write an equation from a table or from a set of given points. Okay, so we're going to use these 3 steps every time, and we're going to be able to write an equation from some given points. So let's go back up to this example. And this is a table, and a couple of things I want to point out about the table, okay? First of all, you'll notice that it says there's a row, right? This right here is your x row, okay? That's your x row. And then this, this is your y row. And you'll notice that in the table, it says f of x. F of x is just a fancy way to write y. So if you were to think about it over here, y equals mx plus b, you could substitute f of x equals mx plus b. F of x is just a fancy way to write y. So in a table, if you see an x row, like we have right here, and then you see a y row or you see an f of x row, that's just your x and y. Okay? So step 1 is to pick 2 points and write an equation in y equals mx plus b. So, and it does not matter what 2 points you pick. So I'm going to pick this point right here, and I'm going to call this x1 and y1, right? And because in the row, the x row is on top. And then I'm going to pick another point, and I will pick, let's see, I don't know if that'll show up. I'll pick this, whoops. Here we go. I'll pick this point. And this is going to be my x2 and my y2. So I've labeled my points. I know what y2 and y1 is, and I know what x2 and x1 is. Now, I will say be very careful because m equals, this is where it gets got a little tricky. Your x's are on top in the table, and your y's are on bottom in the table. But when you plug into the slope formula, your y's go on top. So just take your time and make sure that you're putting your y's on top. So my y2 is right here. It's a 10, right? So it's 10 minus my y1, which is an 8, over x2, which is a 4, minus x1, which is a 3. Okay, so in the table, your y's are on bottom, but in your slope formula, y's are on top. So just be careful not to flip-flop those. 10 minus 8 is 2, and 4 minus 3 is 1. So my slope is 2. Okay, that's step 1. I found my slope. Step 2 is to pick any point and plug it into the y equals m, or point slope form using my given slope and a point. So I've got y minus, now what point do you want to pick? It really does not matter. You can pick any point in this table. You can pick the purple point I already circled, the blue point I already circled, one of the other 3 points. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and just take this point. Okay, that's an x and a y. So remember, this is my x and this is my y, right? So in my form, it's y minus 4 equals my m that I found right here, right? My m equals 2. And then x minus my x value. Well, my x value that I picked was a 1. And this works with any point you pick. You're going to get the same answer, so it doesn't really matter. Now I know I need to distribute, right? So I've got y minus 4 equals 2x, and then 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And then I'm going to add 4 and add 4, and I get y equals 2x, negative 2 plus 4 is positive 2. And that is my answer. That is my equation for this set of points. And like I said, if I had picked the point 3, 8, if I had picked the point 4, 10, 5, 12, or 2, 6, and I plugged that in for my green points, it would have still came out y equals 2x plus 2. Okay? So step 1, find your slope. Step 2, pick any point and plug into point slope. Step 3, write your final answer in y equals mx plus b. Okay? All right, let's go to some more examples. And this sheet will look exactly like your homework looks. Okay, I've actually made a copy of your homework, plugged in different numbers to give you a couple of examples so that you can see exactly how your homework looks. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. The first thing is that, let me open this in Cami. I think it'll be better to, yeah, there we go. So the first thing I want to point out is that there's the directions here, okay? Sorry, I got sidetracked trying to play with my colors. So if you look at the example for number 1, it says write an equation for the following relation. A relation is just a fancy word for a set of points, and those set of points can be given to you in a table, or they can just be given to you like 5 and 6 here, are just written out as a set of points. It's just different ways to write your points. Either way, you've just got a bunch of points here. In a table like this, your points are up and down, so your x and y that go together are on top of each other. In numbers 5 and 6, it's more traditionally what you're used to, and you've got your x and y is written side by side. So that's your x and that's your y, whereas here, this is your x and this is your y, okay? And then you can also, I don't have an example like this, and you don't have an example like this on your homework, but you might also see them look like a table could be standing up like this. And it'll give you the labels, right? And it might even say f of x instead of y. Just know that that's a fancy y. And then your points might be like this. Okay, and that's fine. When they're written like this, that you just know that that's the point 3, 5, right? Whereas here, it's written side by side already. And here, in a table that's long ways, right, it's the point -3, 5. That's the way we're more traditionally used to seeing it. But that's your x and your y. Okay, it's the same thing. You just got to know where to look in the table for your information. Okay? The other thing I want to point out is, so we know what a relation is. A relation is just a set of points, and it can be given to you in a table. I want to point out the different ways your rules are written, and they're written different like this on purpose because on ISTEP and ASVAB and tests like that, you're going to see it written all kinds of ways, and so I want you to get familiar with all the different terminology. Number 1 says write an equation for the relation. Number 2 says write a rule for the table. Number 3 says write a rule for the relation. Number 5 and 6 say describe the relationship between the x and the y. Every single one of those directions, they all mean right here. Let me circle it in red here. Right here. Okay? They all mean to write an equation, and all your equations need to be in y equals mx plus b. So if it says write an equation for the relation, write a rule for the table, write a rule for the relation, or write a relation or describe the relationship between the x and the y values. All of that means write an equation in y equals mx plus b. Okay, so don't let the different ways that your directions are given to you throw you off. All right, so let's look at number 1. Number 1, I'm going to write an equation for the following relation. Okay, I know that the first thing I need to do, step 1, is I need to find my slope. To find my slope, I'm going to choose any 2 points. It doesn't matter. Okay, I'm going to choose this point. Oops. I'm going to choose this point right here as my x1 and my y1. And then I'll choose this point right here for my x2 and my y2. Okay? And again, it doesn't matter. Pick any 2. All right, so with these 2 points, y2 is 7 minus y1, which is a 5. And notice I labeled them. I think that helps you not get confused, especially since, again, remember, this is your y row right here, and this is your x row right here, and you want to make sure you put your y's on top in your slope formula. So y2 minus y1, 7 minus 5. And then x2, which is -4, minus a minus 3. Okay, your x1 is a -3. So -4 minus a minus 3 goes plus. And then you've got 7 minus 5 is 2. And negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1, which reduces to negative 2. So now I have completed step 1, which is to find my slope. Okay, there's my slope. Step 2 is to pick any point and write it in slope-intercept form, or point-slope form. So I've got y minus, now what point am I going to pick? Doesn't matter. I can pick one of the two I've already used. I can pick a different one. It didn't matter. They're all going to end up the same. So I'm going to pick this point, okay? So y minus, remember, right, this is your y. Your y is in the bottom row. Y minus 9 equals my m, which is a negative 2. I found that already. Times x minus my x value, right, which is negative 5. Minus a minus goes positive, so it's positive 5. Now I'm going to distribute, and I'm going to get y minus 9 equals negative 2x. Negative 2 times a positive 5 is negative 10. And then I'm going to add 9 and add 9, and I get y equals negative 2x. Negative 10 plus 9 is negative 1. And that's my answer for number 1, right up here. Y equals negative 2x minus 1. And like I said, I would have gotten that same value or equation if I had picked the blue point, the pink point, the green point, or if I had picked this point or this point. Okay, they all would have worked. Any 2 points would have given me the slope of negative 2, and any 1 point, when I plug it in with the slope, would give me this equation. All right, so let's look at number 2. First step is find my slope. So I'm going to pick 2 points. Excuse me. I'll pick, let's see. I'll pick this point as my x1, my y1. And I will pick this point as my x2 and my y2. Okay? I think it's really important to label your points. Help you maybe not get them confused of what goes on top and what goes on bottom. All right, so my equation is y2, which is 0, minus y1, which is a 3, over x2, which is negative 1, minus a minus 2 goes plus. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1. So my slope reduces to negative 3. So there's my slope. Okay? Now, the next thing I need to do is pick a point and go into point slope form. Now, I just want to point something out. Okay? We talked about this last indicator. This is your x. Let me see if it'll let me highlight. I really want to use that highlighter, but I don't know if it'll let me. Yes, this is my x row, right? That's my x row. All right. If we have an x value of 0, which we do, that means that the y value is my b. Okay? So, if you happen to notice that you're given the gift of an x value of 0, you can skip step 2 of the whole point slope form because, right, we know that all we need to do to write our equation is have an m and a b. Well, we found our m and we were given our b. So y equals our m that we found right here, negative 3, x, and then we were given, right here, we were given the gift of a negative 3 as our b because the x value is 0. So minus 3, And so there's your answer. So if you happen to notice that you have an x value that is 0, it just saves you step 2 and you're able to go straight to step 3. If you forget that and you miss that, just really quick off to the side, I'll show you. Let's say I had picked that point, right? Let's say that I decided to pick this point and I forgot that my 0 was a gift of -3 as my b, and so I wrote, let's see, I wrote y minus a -3, which goes plus, equals my slope of -3 times x minus 0. And when I distribute, I get y plus 3 equals -3x. -3 times 0 is just 0. And then I subtract 3, and I subtract 3, and I get y equals -3x minus 3. I got the same thing, okay? I just saved myself a little bit of work, okay? All right, so let's look at number 3. First thing we're going to do here is we are going to find our m. And I'm going to pick 2 points. So I'll use this one. That's my x1 and my y1. And I'll use this pair. Oops, didn't change colors, did I? I'll use this pair as my x1, 2, and my y2. So now that I have them named, y2, because my y's go on top, my y2 is 20, minus 10, which is my y1, over my x2, which is 11, minus 9. 20 minus 10 is 10. 11 minus 9 is 2, and that reduces to positive 5. So I now know that my m is 5. Now, I glance at my x's really quick just to see if I'm given the gift of my y-intercept. No zeros along the top, so I have to go ahead and use my step 2 information. So let's pick this point as my x and y. And again, right, if I wanted to pick the blue one or the pink one or one of the other two, I absolutely could. But I'm going to go with, okay, so I've got y minus my y, which is 30, equals my m, which I found to be 5, x minus my x, and my x here is a 13. And then I know I need to distribute. And I get y minus 30 equals 5x. Positive 5 and a negative 13 is minus 65. Check my math, but I think that's right. And then I'm going to add 30 and add 30. And I get y equals 5x minus 35, because negative 65 plus a 30 is a negative 35. Okay? If you need to do your work on a separate sheet of paper because you don't have enough room on your homework that the sub's going to hand out to you, then just staple it to your worksheet when you're done. Okay? All right, so really quickly, I'm going to work these. This is just another way to give you a set of points. Instead of in a table, they're just in a string. Okay, you still do it the same way. You pick your x1 and your y1, your x2 and your y2. So I'll take, I'll make that my x1, y1, make that my x2, y2. So I'm going to plug in and find my slope. My y2 is a 16 minus my y1, which is an 8. X2 is an 8 minus my x1, which is a 4. 16 minus 8 is 8. 8 minus 4 is 4, and that reduces to 2. Okay, so now I have my slope equals 2. Now I'm going to pick a point. I'll just pick this point right here as my x and y for my for my point slope form. So I've got y minus my green y, which is an 8, equals my slope, which is a 2 that I found. Whoops. My slope, it's a 2. And then my x minus my green x, which is a 4. And then I know I need to distribute. And when I do that, I get y minus 8 equals 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. And then I need to add 8 and add 8. And I get y equals 2x. Well, negative 8 plus 8 goes to 0. So you can either put it there or not. You can either way. Y equals 2x or y equals 2x plus 0. Okay? And this last one is going to be super quick. And the reason is because I'm going to notice right off the bat, what am I given? Remember, this is an x and a y. So what am I given? I'm given an x value of 0. So before I do anything, I know right away that my b equals negative 3. Because I'm given that x is 0, which means that's my y-intercept. So I don't have to do, I can skip step 2 when I get to it. So let's do our step 1, which is find our slope. So we have m equals, well, let's pick our 1 point I already have squared, and then I'll pick this point right here as my second point, okay? And so this is my x1, my y1, and this is my x2 and my y2. So let's plug those in. My y2 is negative 3 minus a minus 5 because my y1 is negative 5. So minus a minus goes plus. And then my x2 is 0 minus a minus 1 goes plus. And so I've got negative 3 plus 5 is positive 2. And 0 plus 1 is 1, which means my m, right? My m equals 2. So I now have my m and I have my b. Because I was given the gift of the b, I can skip step 2 and I can go right to step 3, which is y equals 2x minus 3. All right? My m was my m, and my b was my b given to me as a gift. Okay, so there's your final answer. Y equals 2x minus 3. Okay, hopefully every single one of the examples I've done should cover an example like you have on your homework. So as a reminder, f of x is the same thing as a y. Don't let that throw you. Write a rule, write a relation, describe a relationship. All just means write an equation in y equals mx plus b. And then you're going to want to follow your steps that I laid out here. Pick any 2 points, find a slope. Pick any 1 point and write the slope-intercept form. And I will, if you want to add this to your notes, you might want to just give yourself a little star here to look for a point with x equals 0. Okay, if you find that, you know your b, and you can skip right to step 3, because when you have an x equals 0, the y is your b. Okay? All right, the sub should have given you a worksheet. If not, make sure you get it from her, front and back, and have those done by tomorrow. If you have any questions, please email me, and we will go over this tomorrow. We will do a quick review, and then again, we will have an open note quiz on Wednesday. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you all tomorrow.